So just a year later, your sophomore album was called Love Approach.
Mhm.
It included the monster hit Funkin' for Jamaica.
Right.
It's the baddest cut that Shaka Khan never did. So tell me about those sessions and the genesis of that track in particular, Tom.
Even Shaka Khan said, "When did I do this record?" We had 7 tracks completed for the Love Approach album, and Arista was the parent company. Arista was the funding to GRP to do the records, and they said, "Oh, it seems like it needs one more song," and we all agreed, and I said, "Okay." And I remember vividly going home. I had been working on this bass line. I had my little synth set up at my parents' attic at that point. I was working on this bass line and put it together and went into the studio and taught it to Bernard Wright. And he played that. I said, no, it goes like this. Here's the vibe. And it was constantly shifting. It had a lot of space to it, and it was constantly shifting. And I remember Bernard saying, "Oh, I dig." And, he just jumped right into it with that whole Jamaica flavor. And it ended up being a jam session that was a musical thank you to my hometown. We put that thing together track by track, really just having a very skeletal idea behind it. I mean, the whole rap and everything wasn't formulated. And when the whole thing was completed, I remember, we put the horn lines on and everything. I remember Dave said, "Yeah, well, we got to do something to make it a trumpet record. You're a trumpet player." Da-da. So here came these first, and to this day, no matter how much bebop I play, those 2 notes are more popular than anything I've ever done. I accept it. It's just the way it is. God's got a sense of humor. I just accept it the way it is. But when we did that record, Arista said, "Nothing special, no problem." They didn't think much of it. Nobody thought it would do anything. We didn't have any great plans for it.
It's a grower.
The thing just took off. It just took off on its own. There was no stopping. It still gets major airplay today. 40 years later.
So how'd you connect, or how'd Tony Smith come into the picture?
Tony Smith was the fiance of the keyboard player that I had playing with my band at that time, a guy named Eric Rail. And Eric just, told me, "Hey, I've got someone who's, she's kind of in the Shaka Khan vein." I said, "Well, great, that would be perfect for this." Tony wrote the lyrics, and it just so happened that Shaka didn't have a record out at that moment. I guess Shaka's record was due, and Jamaica Funk dropped, and everybody thought it was Shaka. I get people today that's, "Oh man, that was a great Shaka record." Well, great, but it wasn't. And if you Google it online, Shaka actually did an interview where she was trying to remember when she did it, because she thought she did it. She thought it was her record.
Well, there were some fuzzy years back then too, so.
Yeah.
It's to tell you how naive I am. I was just, high school then, and I thought it was, Jamaica, the island. I didn't even know it was New York,
Yeah, that's the other one, and I put NY after it. But I get lots of people. "Oh man, we want to thank you for the major praise you brought to our island, man." I just like, okay, sure, I'll roll with
it. Give me those tourist dollars.
Yeah. I'll gladly go to Jamaica and play.
Yeah, it's definitely. I was saying it was a grower. It's the kind of track that you hear, and it just, it's like an earworm. It gets in there, and it's infectious.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm real thankful for the reception it got.
I wonder. I'm curious if Shaka Khan's ever covered it in a show.
I haven't seen her do any recordings of it. Distributed recordings, but I have seen her do it live, and I have seen her do it. She's on YouTube doing it.
Oh,
so
I'll have to look that up. So what was it like when you first heard that on the radio? Because that's such an important time for so many artists. I've heard so many say that, okay, it's cool, to know people are buying it, it's successful. But when I hear it coming out of a car stereo, that's what's amazing, and that kind of thing. So what was that like for you?
It was a blessing and a curse, all in one. It was a blessing, and continues to be a blessing. I mean, I basically paid my house off on Jamaica Funk. But what it did was pigeonhole a jazz trumpet player into a career going out with SOS, the Gap Band, and Zap, all of whom are great groups, but it's just not me. And so, you know, in my earlier shows, we would do 2 or 3 songs that the people would really dig, and then beyond that, it was like, oh, you know, what are we going to do for the next 45 or 50 minutes? Because that's just not me. And it took until about 10 years ago, and a lot of touring with Roy Ayers. We toured together quite a bit, and Roy is the same way. Roy has had so many of those R&B hits, but he's a jazz player, that he's learned to make peace with that. And he's learned to just say, screw it. I'm just going to be myself on stage. I'm going to have fun. You either like me or you don't like me. I'm just going to be myself. And being around that for a couple of years, I learned just to stop trying to pretend. Stop trying to pretend I was a funk artist. Stop wearing spandex. Stop, you know, all that's just stop it. You know, and just be myself. I'm who I am. And like it or not, that's just the way. And as a result of that, over the last 10 years, my shows have really come together. They've really been doing very well.